Hey, everybody. Welcome again to another author interview. This is my friend Felicia Messina-D'Haiti, and she wrote a wonderful chapter in our last Born to Rise book. So we thought we would check in with her and see how she's doing since then, but also just say hi. I haven't talked to you in a while, Felicia. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, Kim. Thanks. I'm happy to be here with you today.
Good. Well, I just want future authors to really understand what we're doing here. Our mission really is to get women's voices out into the world because I feel like our voices are filled with stories of self-compassion,
Mm.
empathy, this sense of gathering in community and service. And it's a part of our feminine qualities, I guess, and certainly men have those too. But in the past, we've heard a lot from history, the his of history, and now it's time for the herstory. And then also maybe some other things that came out of writing a very vulnerable personal chapter in a book, which was what the request was when we reached out to you all. So let's just start there. When you first heard about the project, what drew you to it?
Mm. So when I first saw the project, really what the first thing that drew me to it was the name Born to Rise, and that the theme of rising above like whatever comes our way. Um, and so that's what first attracted me. And then when I read the description and saw the part about community building and the coming together for the retreat and just like the continued, like it was like a building up of energy towards the final like culmination. And I've written chapters in books before and I've had great experiences with those, but this was something different that I was just like, oh, this looks really intriguing to me, and to be part of a different community and of like-minded women and women who are going through like the same writing process. I thought would be a wonderful experience.
Yeah, so what was different about this project, this writing process than some of the other books that you might have been involved with?
Mm. So one thing was the big thing was the community and the monthly meetings and the touch points with you and Bryna and the coaching of the story, because I know I met with you before I even started writing, just to
Wow.
kind of draw out like different ideas of what I might want to write about and how it could fit with the theme. And I also had some similar conversations with Bryna, and those really helped in because I changed my idea a couple times. So it really helped me like get to the final, like, what is it that I want to write about and express in my story?
Yeah, and I think for me in the coaching that I do with people's stories, there's always surprises when, and even for myself, when someone asks me just the right question,
Mm,
gets me thinking about something, and then I'm like, wow, that's kind of like something else, and this, and it's like we start connecting these dots and seeing our story in an exciting way. So I'm curious as to, as we started that process, or you started that process of thinking about what you wanted to say, what surprised you? Like what came up that maybe surprised you or shifted you?
I think one thing that came up, and it actually came up several times during the process, was I've had a lot of health challenges over the last 8 years, and sometimes I feel like, okay, that's just normal. I just need to do do what needs to be done to get through it, and and no big deal. Nothing to like talk about or nothing to write about. And just seeing like, okay, like I really did go through some extraordinary things, and it is something to talk about because other people are probably thinking the same thing, like I'm the only one, and I just need to get through it and move on, and it's no big deal. But it changes us in ways that maybe we don't see in the beginning.
Well, you definitely rose above, right? I mean, some people will
Yeah.
go into a ball on the floor if they're really sick and they can't quite get shift in their mindset. But I know you've done a lot of personal work and personal growth work.
Mhm.
And I'm sure that helped. And that's the kind of thing that I think inspires other people to stay strong during their own health challenges. So I loved what you wrote. And it was something big. And I think
Mhm.
it's funny because a lot of the women that maybe I first approach, whether it be for a story night or the book or what have you, I don't have a story is the common reply. I don't have a story to share because we do think the things we're going through are not much to talk about because we're just going about our business, so to speak, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But really, a lot of us are going through our business, but it may look different for everyone else. So I am grateful that you shared what you shared because I think a lot of people have health challenges and it's inspiring to hear that we can get through them with grace and maybe even some inner peace in some ways, right?
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah. So
Definitely.
you graciously said yes to the project. You graciously get through your challenges, and I know you're still continuing to work through different things as they come up. And then you graciously showed up at our retreat, and I say graciously because you have a way about you where you just come into a room and you absorb. You're quiet at first. When you're asked a question, you completely give an answer and you're very forthcoming, but you're a great listener. You're
Mhm.
a really great listener. And I think what I loved and appreciated about that is that in our community of authors, we had different dynamics of each person, right? Everybody had their own personality. Somebody was like really gregarious, somebody was somewhere in the middle, somebody was, maybe a little sad or depressed because they were trying to work through their stuff, whatever. But you just have this beautiful way of showing up. And I think that came through in your stories as well. So I just wanted to acknowledge that about you and
Thank
say
you.
that, in any community you're in, you're going to have a diverse group of personalities. But I'll ask this, how was that retreat for you? I mean, because that was really the first time we all came together as a group. What kind of
Mhm.
takeaways did you have from that experience?
The retreat was a very powerful experience for me. Just meeting all the different women and hearing their stories and understanding that, everyone there had a story, had more than one story to share. I think the most impactful opportunity or thing that happened during the retreat was when we each read our stories out loud. And I know that is the first time I've ever read, except in school, ever read out loud a story that I've written. And it was just very like feeling the emotion of the story and kind of releasing that emotion was very healing.
Yeah, and that's why I personally love the live piece because I feel like there's this energy of speaking our stories into the world and seeing that nobody's getting harmed by it, right? You're
Yeah.
actually healing from it as well as hopefully helping others heal. And so I appreciate you saying that. Um, and then you spoke live again at the VIP event at our festival recently. Um, so the live piece, even at the VIP, how did that feel? Like, did you feel supported? Was there vulnerability? Was there like kind of that oh shit moment? Or what really came up about speaking live, actually speaking, not just sharing in a safe group, but safe sharing with an audience that maybe you weren't sure about?
Oh wow. It was kind of like all of the things above.
Yeah.
um So, I agreed. I was like, "Yes, I'll speak." And then, the days going up to when I actually came to Rhode Island for the event, I was just like, "Oh no." Like, what have I agreed to?
And then when you were done, what was the feeling?
Oh, it was great. It was just a feeling of because there is like the support from, an audience of people who I've never met before, most of, except for the authors, an audience of strangers, and just seeing like how supportive they were of me and my story and what I had to share about the importance of sharing our stories. And I felt the love and support of the audience. I felt more, I guess, grounded in my story. Like, yes, this is my story. This is part of me.
Yeah.
Um, because I think, sometimes like just with journaling or writing small things, it's kind of like, oh, I wrote it, I got it out, that's it, let's move on. And
Um,
this gave me an opportunity to kind of revisit the story a couple times and like, oh, yes, I wrote this. um, and this is it's part of me, so it feels more part of me, and it makes me feel, or made me feel like safer in sharing my story with wider audiences.
And it's interesting because this is a very vulnerable experience, right? I mean, you were asked to share something um, from your heart, a personal experience, right? Which is different than sort of giving a presentation and offering advice or,
Mhm.
things like that. So um, I love to hear that there was this sort of vulnerable, scary place, and you got through the other side and could see that it's actually quite empowering in a way.
Mhm.
So I absolutely love that because it really is the intention here is to say we're okay, even with whatever we have going on. And I also loved how you said it's a part of you. It's not all of you, right?
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
and I think that's a great point to bring home. Was there any nerves or fears around sharing your story with those who are close to you? Like something that you might have shared that was like, oh God, someone's going to read this. Did that come up for you at all?
Um, a little bit. Because so the specific story that I wrote about was my experience having a hysterectomy and led up to that. And so like in the beginning, I talked about an experience with a person who was just like, "Oh no, you're not going to do that." And so I was I was kind of nervous that the person who said that
Yeah.
was gonna kind of see the impact of what she said to me. But then I'm like, "Oh well, like she said it and it happened." And
Well, that's what we do, right? We make stuff mean things, but if we can just speak from the place of like I heard her say X, Y, and Z, and then you
yeah.
go and you're not like putting her down or anything like that. It just wasn't what you needed in that moment, and that's okay. Um,
Yeah.
and I think that's a big piece though. Because as we coach you to write these stories and future authors, of course, we talk a lot about how to talk about other characters in our story without, you know, this intention to harm, of course, or make them feel upset. Um, did it open up any unique conversations with your family or anything like that? I mean, I guess most of them know what you're going through, obviously.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, most of them know. There were some, not so much family, but friends or just acquaintances who bought the book and read the story and sent me notes about how inspiring it was, or how I don't know, I guess, inspiring and uplifting, and how much I've overcome.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Well, Felicia, it's been amazing just having you part of the project. You bring, like I said, such grace to everything. And I hope that you continue to share your story. Do you feel like if you ever do any um well, maybe you've already done speaking and coaching, would you weave this story into that work, do you think? Has that helped you in any way to bring that into your work?
I think it will, because like in the past I've tended to like not bring like my personal stories into so much like the coaching or the healing work that I do with others. But what this experience has taught me, well, it's taught me a couple of things, but like bringing like all of me into an experience, and that it will help others, because there are other people who I've either read the story or I've shared the story with, and they're like, oh, I had that experience too, and I thought I was the only one. So it kind of like brings it out to show people they're not alone, and that and brings like an aspect of, yeah, I've been through a lot of stuff and I'm using these tools to help me. So I know they can help you too.
Yeah, I know. I even feel when I bring my own story into a situation, any kind of vulnerable story, I think
Mhm.
allows someone else to be vulnerable or says, like, you're in a safe place. Like,
Mhm.
you know what I mean? Like you're creating that container just by sharing from your heart. So I love that. Well, I wish you the best moving forward. I'm excited that the next authors, one of them will get to work with you. You will, be mentoring them and, helping them get through the next phase of their writings and projects. So, yeah, thanks for joining me today, Felicia. And are there any last words or anything you'd like to say before we close out?
Just overall recommending the experience. It was really life-changing and affirming and empowering for me. So I recommend that for anybody to just go ahead and jump in to the process. It'll be great. It'll be fun. And
You.
thank you.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Felicia. Have a great afternoon.